Alright boys, welcome back to BBR Week 8. This one's a little bit of a crucial one, boys, because this is a win or go home situation. If you missed last week, Week 7 against Owen, check that out in the top right hand corner. I'm going to give it a minute before I spoil the standings, the results of that one. Unfortunately, we ended up losing because we missed a gunk shot, and Owen agreed that that really dictated how the in-game played out, and that if I hit that, I probably won the game. So, unfortunate, not my favorite game in the world, and now we're here. And I'm going to let you guys look behind the curtain a little bit for BBR. So, without spoiling too many games or too many results, basically, the reason that we're winning in is because there's a ton of 4-3 or 3-4 teams. Basically, the reason why it's a win and in situation and while we're not already in is because there's a lot of teams at the bottom of the standings, to keep it completely honest with you guys. There's a lot of teams who have been donating wins, and there's a lot of 4-win teams, a lot of 5-win teams, and none of them play each other this last week. It's pretty much our fate is in everybody else's hands, and where I know we are, where the results have landed, our fate is now in our hands. So we have to win if we want to make playoffs. If we lose, the chance is still there, but it's extremely low. I'm going to be honest with you guys, at the time of recording this, Owen and Kurt have yet to play, and our fate, if we lose, hinges on that game. If we lose this game, the only way we make playoffs is if Owen loses more than we lose. So basically, that's where we stand. So essentially, we have to win or we go home. And we play Keegan, who's one of the best players in the BBR, not only record-wise, but also skill-wise. In my opinion, he's a good player, not a good builder. So hopefully, he didn't get any prep help here. Keegan's obviously a very good friend of mine, and we've been helping each other all BBR season, me, him, and Obo. So to face him last week, it was something that I was definitely looking forward to if I beat Owen. But now because I beat Owen, or because I lost to Owen, excuse me, we're in this really shitty situation where we have to win, and it's like a 50-50 matchup, so there's definitely a chance, but I am not looking forward to this. Our team for potentially the final times: Latios, Annihilate, Scizor, Weavile, Comfy, I guess you've made the cut, Andy Shocks, Skarmory, Big Man, and Little Man. And Keegan's team is going to be Meowscarada, Iron Hands, Volcarona. I don't know how we have consistently played good fire types. There are like 9 in this deck, and we have played 7 of them. I don't get it. Screamtail, Lando Eye, Blastoise, Dragonite, Registeel, and Bruxish. So my initial thoughts on the matchup: Meowscarada doesn't have that great of a matchup. I do think it still has to come just because of that speed tier, but my Weavile plus Skarmory plus Big Man plus even Scizor makes it a little tough to bring Meowscarada, but he could bring some form of a hazard stack type of Meowscarada like lead. I think that would make a lot of sense. Uncle Mike always comes here. Uncle Mike is fantastic. The only issue is obviously we do have a Latios, but it can be like a Fizz-Def Iron Hands for our Weavile. Volcarona should also always come. That mod is very hard for me to deal with, and in my opinion, the best mod in the matchup. There are a lot of scenarios where it can just get a Quiver Dance up and win the game, and there's not a lot I can do about it. We have to play extremely careful into the Volcarona. The next 3 slots are pretty up in the air. I think Registeel is the next most likely Pokemon. It helps with both Latios. Obviously, it has Clear Body for the Luster Purge, so he could run that. Or on the other side of the coin, if he wants to use it as a Weavile check, it could be clear. What's it called? Light Metal. It could be Light Metal for the low kick, and it's a good Weavile check in that sense. It can kind of function to where it can check both of those Pokemon at the same time, so it's very annoying for us to deal with. He also says Screamtail. Screamtail could be a good rocker here. It could be a good Latios check. Obviously, Fairy in general is very good into our team. Our poison type is Big Man. We do have 2 steals, but it gets fire moves. It could be Fire Blast for both of those steel types. So Screamtail is a little bit annoying for us to deal with. I do not expect a setup Screamtail, although to the team that we're bringing, it could be a little bit scary. And then the last thought, in my opinion, is probably Landorus. Landorus does very well. We don't really have good pivots into Lando, and we only have 2 Pokemon that outspeed it. Yes, it puts him in a poor spot once we send in the Weavile, but Landorus is so good. It can pretty much claim a KO if it comes in if we do not play carefully. The other 3 Pokemon, Blastoise, I could see coming if he's super worried about Hazard Stack, but he runs 6 boots anyway, so I don't think Blastoise is going to make an appearance. Dragonite could come, but we do have some solid answers for Dragonite, and him getting a Dragon Dance off seems like not the most optimal way for him to win this game. In my opinion, it's Volcarona, Meowscarada, Iron Hands, things like that for him to get into a good spot to win this game. But at the same time, Keegan does not need this win, so it's very possible he tries to set up with Dragonite for a potential in-game. And then lastly, Bruxish. I actually do not think Bruxish ever comes, but it does have some interesting usability here. Could be Scarf for like the Weavile, potentially, obviously Dazzling, while Ice Shard may do a million because it doesn't have any defenses. It probably doesn't do that much, actually. It does block my priority there. It blocks Comfey's priority. It blocks Scissor's priority, and honestly, water and psychic stabs are very good into me. So if Bruxus comes, I wouldn't be surprised, and it could do very well into it. As for the team that we are bringing against Keegan, the first mon we're going to be leading off with is going to be Latios. Latios does actually pretty poor in this matchup overall, but we can take advantage of knowing what his pivots into this Pokemon are. We're just going to be boots on this Pokemon because I think rocks are extremely likely for our opponent to get up and very difficult for us to remove. Obviously, we only have Scizor, which doesn't really do a great job of removing them in this matchup. So we have, just because it does kind of poor in the matchup overall. So we are going to be Thunder Wave plus Flip Turn, Thunder Wave to Thunder Wave onto the Scream Tail, which afterwards cannot outspeed us, obviously. Flip Turn for momentum, and then Dual Stabs, because Dual Stabs is very well here. Psychic Noise to prevent Wish on that Scream Tail. Thunder Wave also puts us in a position where if we're in front of the Volcarona, we're going to Thunder Wave it, man, because it just is such a potent threat in this matchup. Thunder Waving it and crippling it in that sense is that important, because obviously it's going to be boots. We're going to have another T-Spike later on, and Thunder Wave is going to be much more important for the Volcarona because it cannot be T-Spiked. It also helps with the Registeel, the Scream Tail switch in, and Dual Stabs in general do very well. Latios is actually not super important here, but it does help with things like the Iron Hands, like the outspeeding the Landers. It's good for its speed tier pretty much. Our next Pokemon is going to be the most important Pokemon in this matchup. It's going to be Weavile, and we're going to be Swords Dance, Ice Shard, Triple Axle, and Knockoff. We got to hope Triple Axle treats us right because it has not recently been treating us correctly. And we're going to be Lumberry over Boots, which might be something that I come to regret. But knowing Keegan and knowing how Keegan plays, he's going to be Thunder Wave on his Scream Tail. He's going to prioritize Thunder Wave to the damage on the Weavile. He's going to go for that Thunder Wave, and we can set up in its face pretty much free. Even if we cannot, we have enough bulk to live a D-Gleam from the Scream Tail after rocks, or a Play Rough Raw. We can't really afford to have the bulk to live it after rocks, but we can live it if rocks do not get up. The whole point of this Weavile is to Swords Dance and get into a position where this Pokemon wins. We have to keep a lot of things in mind, like we have to chip the Registeel, we have to keep Dragonite E-Speed in mind, and we have to chip Iron Hands at least a little bit, but this Pokemon does have the capability to get into a position to win the game in the end game. Next up, we've got our guaranteed lead, Big Man. Big Man with the Air Balloon to guarantee lead into literally everything. It is a very, very good lead. Air Balloon helps versus both the Iron Hands as well as the Lando. Make sure that we do not get O-Code turn 1 essentially, and if he, for whatever reason, gets a not very good lead, like he leads Scream Tail or something, doesn't want to pop the balloon, we can still have the balloon in the back for later. Taunt is for things like specifically the Registeel to ensure rocks do not get up turn 1 or we do not get Thunder Wave. Toxic Spikes are because Keegan does not have a grounded poison, and I know he loves to run boots on everything. So while T-Spikes are not the main aspect of this team, T-Spikes are going to give us a lot of information in this game as to what is and what is not boots. And then we have only Gunk Shot and Jet. I never clicked Crunch in the mocks, so I kept Gunk Shot, which I clicked all the time, and then I switched to Jet for a little bit of extra insurance versus the Volcarona as well as the Landorus. With this, we can outspeed the Dragonite. We went max attack, the rest into HP. This is our guaranteed lead unless we see the Blastoise. If we see the Blastoise, we might lead something else, but I do still think ideally we're going to lead this and we're going to find out what's boots and what's not. Big Man is also important for the Meowscarada as well. Next up, we've got Annihilate, Spanky, like a Disruptor, a mid-game breaker. We're just leftovers, Taunt, Bulk Up, Dual Stabs. It's a very good set into this matchup. It can push past the Iron Hands pretty easily with Taunt plus Bulk Up. I think Keegan, last time we played that I had Annihilate and he had Iron Hands, brought a Whirlwind set to beat my Annihilate. So if he goes for the same path, we actually are able to beat that same set that he used to beat us last time. On top of that, Bulk Up plus Rage Fist is just so good in this matchup, and we get Drain Punches off very freely into so many different things. The only thing that I'm kind of missing on this set is going to be Ice Punch, because it picks up a KO on the Landers, whereas +1 Rage Fist with 100 base power does not, and it picks up a KO on the Dragonite, which again, we do not really pick up that KO. We're going to be no speed and we're going to be extremely bulky. We can live 2 Volcarona Fire Blast and 2 max attack Iron Hands Thunder Punches if he is adamant, and then we went the rest into attack adamant to hit pretty hard. I could have went with a more bulky set, and honestly I might regret not doing so, but having this attack investment allows us to do a lot of damage to a lot of things, and those Rage Fist boosts are going to stack up very nicely. Next up, we've got max special defense anti-shocks with an Assault Vest. This is our only way to even consider combating a Volcarona, and if he gets a Fiery Dance boost, we lose. It's that simple. Volcarona is almost impossible for our team to deal with. I think he's going to be Quiver, I think he's going to be Dual Stabs, and I think he's going to be Psychic. I think that is pretty much impossible for my team to deal with, and it's going to this is the best I can do. Power Gem doesn't even OHKO. So Power Gem puts it in range of Aqua Jet from Big Man. That's why we're Jet on Big Man, I guess. Thunderbolt, Earth Power, they do fantastic. Volt Switch for Momentum, awesome. Obviously, Lando's a pretty free switch here, but we can Power Gem into that slot. This Pokemon really is not going to come out until that Volcarona comes out, because that Volcarona is just so much of a threat into my team. I don't have a lot to say about Andy Shocks, but he is strictly here for the Volcarona. And then lastly, once again, another Max with Def AV Pokemon. I had Scarf Scizor. I thought I was cheeky with it. I thought Scizor did very well with Scarf. I could actually catch a Meow, speed creeping, us creeping the Screamtail. And I thought that did very well, but I didn't have any type of pivot into the Landorus. So this lets me pretend to be a pivot into the Landorus with the Spadef. I can take 2 Earth Powers after Rocks from that Lando, and then 8 attack, U-turn, Bullet Punch, knockoff into a Wing Beat. Dual Wing Beat lets us catch a hard Volcarona switch in. Knockoff lets us punish both the Volcarona and the Registeel if we don't know what he might switch into this. U-turn for Momentum and Bullet Punch is pretty obvious. That's going to be the team that we're bringing, guys. It's not my favorite team in the world, but I do think that we have a good chance to win here. Weavile in the in-game is super, super good. There are a lot of things that Keegan could bring that we don't have a lot of ways to answer. Specifically, Volcarona is going to be the hardest thing for us to deal with, but we're going to try our best, man. And if we lose because we missed a gunk shot last week, I am going to be heartbroken. But we're going to try our best. We're going to try to make BBR playoffs, because I obviously failed to make playoffs last season and do not want to have that happen 2 seasons in a row. If we lose and Owen does not lose, we're going to be the 9th seed, and that means we would not make playoffs off of 1 seed difference, and I hate that, man. So we got to chin up, play our best, and we got to beat Keegan. I think that's going to be it for me here, guys. I'm going to get ready to play Keegan. Thank you so much for watching. And for now, guys, this has been John Jr. signing off. I never clicked Crunch in the Mox, so I switched to Gunk, and then I switched to... I never clicked Crunch in the Mox, so I switched to only